entered the week after what might potentially be the biggest esports event in history. MLG Columbus 2011 has just wrapped up, and we now have the 70th edition of VVV Gaming's The Losers Bracket to bring you up to date on everything that happened, as well as what to look forward to in the future. We're going to start things off this week with Call of Duty Black Ops, a huge improvement over Dallas in my humble opinion. Our very own VVV Fly Society did very well at the event as well, taking 9th place in their first event as a roster. Pretty cool. We have a guest this week to talk about Call of Duty with us. His name is Goldenboy. It actually is the second time on the show, I do believe. Alex, welcome back to the show. How have you been since the last time that you joined us here?
I've been good. Last time I joined you was for a mobile phone game, so it's nice to be able to talk about a console shooter for a change.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Like I said, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. First things first, what were your initial opinions of Black Ops at Columbus as compared to Dallas?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't go to Dallas, but I can say that a lot of the people that I know there, and judging by my voice, which I'm losing right now, I guess you could tell how exciting it was for me personally. But I can say that the event was great. We did get all the seats filled up, which was fantastic. You know, when we had the top teams playing on the main stage, everyone was there checking it out, which is what we wanted. You know, the crowd was a little dead because most of the people there were players, and most of those players are mad that they lost. But at least the players stuck around. So I'm real happy about that. And, you know, I mean, it was definitely an improvement. Like I said earlier. If there was one thing, though, that did bother me was just the fact that if you looked on the screen, you'll always see a FAMAS, but I guess we'll get to that in a little bit. That's basically it for myself. Great event from what I saw.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about with the settings, the FAMAS. I knew that they did have some new rules that they were going to implement into Black Ops for this event, but unfortunately with the issue with PlayStation Network and not being able to get the patch out in a timely manner for PlayStation 3, of course we were still using just a very slightly modified version of the settings we had in Dallas. Things like Ninja Plans, things like of that nature were still available in the game at Columbus. In regards to these settings, is there anything that you personally would like to see that you think will improve the competitive gameplay, maybe get some other weapons aside from the FAMAS into the game?
Well, I know that a lot of younger players and people who just don't seem to understand the way Call of Duty used to be back then kind of won't understand this, but we need to get rid of the FAMAS. The simple reason is because it's the fastest firing rate out of any gun. You know, it's extremely easy to fire from the hip. And it's it's just a powerful weapon altogether. And on land, it is absolutely devastating. So personally, for me, I would like to see the FAMAS removed from competitive play, along with the AUG, since they're basically the same weapon, just a few kickbacks on recoil. I would like to see both of those guns removed, and possibly the G11, because that would be the next gun to take over and dominate completely. Obviously, I haven't really used the G11 on land, so I can't really attest to that too much. I just know online it is an absolute beast. But against the FAMAS, you know, everything pretty much doesn't stand a chance. So that's something that we would need to address. Incorporate guns like the Commando and the Enfield, even guns like the FAL, which I had the great discovery on land. In one of my matches, I used it. It was a 2-shot kill every time. And people actually had some eyebrows raised with that. They were like, really? That's a 2-shot kill? And, you know, imagine seeing a bunch of single shots in Call of Duty. That might be a little interesting. You know, like I just want to see something in there that will throw some variation that people would be more inclined to watch it. Because obviously we can't have Claymore mines. We can't have, grenade launchers and all that, and snipers are largely ineffective. I would like to see more weapons. It kind of sucks when you see 4 FAMASes. I want to see someone own a weapon, you know, or be like, okay, this guy is the best commando in the game. Like, that would be pretty cool to see, personally.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I do think that variety and potentially seeing, oh, this player right here is really good with weapon Y or weapon Z, that would definitely lead to a spicier play style, in my opinion. Jerry, turning to you, you personally were at Dallas, at Columbus with myself as well. What are your thoughts currently on Black Ops?
Well, I mean, I really have to agree with a lot of what Goldenboy just said. I mean, before the event, when we had got back from Dallas, I said a lot had to change. And somebody had commented to me that we didn't really have a dog in the fight. So, I mean, I this time watched Fly Society play every match. And I watched them against a great variety of teams. I sat right in the front row when we played Optic Nation. Everything, I was there. And I was there to watch the game very closely and watch the reaction of the audience. And there is something very standard about the way Call of Duty is played. And I think there's a great challenge that the Call of Duty community faces. And that is, in North America, it's my opinion that we prefer a Halo-style game. Whereas to me, Call of Duty in Europe is a Counter-Strike-style game. They prefer search and destroy. They prefer the Counter-Strike model. The Europeans believe that takes more skill. I disagree with that assessment. They both have things that are positive and negative. I'm not sure the pro teams are the best people to talk to about getting this issue fixed. That's my concern. Because in some ways, if you are doing very well, you're not going to have a motivation to change your play style.
I definitely do agree with that there. You know, I mean, me not having access to the pro forums, you know, kind of bothers me because I would like to get in the heads of all those players and be able to talk to them and, you know, see what they're thinking. I do know a few tidbits of information, though, before all the, you know, craziness with Columbus, with the PlayStation Network being down prior to Columbus, I can say that there was some talk of bringing rapid fire back into the game, removing steady aim, and that would have created a little bit more of a balance, or not a balance, but at least some variation in weaponry with how, you know, Call of Duty is played right now, because at this point the AK-74U is completely not completely useless, but because we have seen some teams do work with it. And that's the thing, that's one of the big things that bothers me, is that on LAN guns play so much different than they do online. Like the 74U is an effective weapon on LAN, but online it's completely pointless to use. You know, the Spectre is a decent weapon online and on LAN, but it's more effective on LAN. Excuse me, I said more twice, but that's how effective it is. So I just think that, you know, the difference between online and LAN really, you know, changes things up. But we do need to get more opinions that aren't the pros and see what they say. But then with that said, a lot of the, players, like, if you would get your opinion, where do you get your opinion from? You'd get it from game battles. And most people on game battles want the FAMAS there because that's how they get kills. So it's, you know, it's hit or miss. Like, what needs to be done is we all need to gather people that can fight for the FAMAS and people that can fight against the FAMAS, and have just a clear and concrete debate with, you know, guys like KC, who I wish I would have had a chance to speak to at Columbus, and, you know, pretty much just say, okay, what are the pros and cons of removing the FAMAS and keeping the FAMAS, and going from there, I think would be a real effective strategy, and, you know, for Anaheim and beyond.
Yeah, and my concern is that the community would rather play with something that works than try to adjust it again, and that the pushback that will be received is we don't want to spend all season tweaking the settings. And here's another challenge, too, is we have Modern Warfare 3 looming on the horizon. If it were going to be around for a couple of years, maybe making these changes in the beginning wouldn't be a problem. But if it's going to be replaced by Modern Warfare 3, can we live with what we have? You know, I really don't know at the end of the day. But I, with you, just like you, would love to see more variety, but I'm concerned that the top players don't have an appetite for it.
Yeah, I definitely do understand what you're saying there. I mean, you have, you know, one of two things you could do. You can either change rules for Anaheim and then leave it that way because we only have 4 events from that point, or keep them because we only have 4 events from this point. So it's like, you know, what's the right decision to do at this point in time? You know, if you're KC, what are you thinking right now? Okay, should I make a petition to change the settings, or should I get pro player feedback? I mean, there are pro players that want it banned. I'm not alone in this issue. You know, I have had talks with Stainville from Envious and Hastro, and they want it banned as well. They've actually expressed it publicly that they want it banned. You know, but some of the younger players, like when I spoke with Fear John, he doesn't want it banned because he likes the FAMAS. And I'm not saying it's because he's young, but it's just because that's what he likes. You know, I don't know. I'm for competitive merit and making the game, you know, as fun as possible. And in changing the settings too, you might be able to attract more people to watch the game, which is what we really want. We want more people to watch the game because we're already getting bashed enough as it is with the FAMAS from the European community. They already hate our settings as it is, and the fact that we all use the FAMAS on LAN just disgusts them even more. And then we have, you know, just the general community that enjoy their sniper montages and whatnot, and they hate the FAMAS because it's the fastest shooting gun in the game. So it definitely puts us in a real big conundrum. And what we do from this point forward will definitely take shape for the rest of the season. And then we definitely got to set that same authority for Modern Warfare 3, if that game does go on to be a pro circuit title.
Yeah, in my opinion, personally, something has to be done. With stream numbers rumored to be quite lower, and honestly, with behemoths such as Halo and Starcraft doing amazing numbers, Call of Duty is trailing in a very distant third place. We need to do something to make this a bit more exciting, to get the community behind this, to make it so that it is more exciting for the spectator to watch on the stream, for the people in the crowd to get behind, to make an awesome kill, instead of just bam bam fast shooting with the FAMAS every single game. Can't be play style. It isn't working right now, in my opinion. Whether it be trying out some sort of new setting at Anaheim, it has to be done. It absolutely has to be done. If anything, if they do switch over to Modern Warfare 3 in the next year, yes, it is a different title, but at least they can learn, since it is still Call of Duty. They can take that with them to the next title. I do feel like there should be some sort of play testing that gets started with the community. MLG can listen to the feedback and change as necessary.
So, Jason, you mentioned something about MW3, and you see, what I would like to see is this. Obviously, there is a big community of Call of Duty gamers out there, and this large community wants to see Call of Duty being played. And I just think that as far as Modern Warfare 3 is concerned, when that game comes out, I feel like we need to start off thinking about the competitive aspect. We need to show people that this is like how it could potentially pan out. The Black Ops, we all were like, pubbing it up real hardcore and, having a great time with all the new things in the game. But the competitive aspect of it didn't start establishing itself until a few, months into the game's release. With Modern Warfare 3, just like the way StarCraft did, we need to start off competitive. I don't know how we can do that. Maybe, we can, with the great relationship that Activision has with MLG, we can probably get early release copies sent to those guys at the MLG offices. They could call pro players and community members over to, try the game out and establish settings for day one release so that people can have something to play with right away. Maybe that'd be a good idea. It's like we have to really brainstorm and to help expand this community, because I personally think that Modern Warfare 3 has the potential. It's there. Like all Call of Duty games, it's there. It's whether or not that, things like LAN and create a class on LAN and the weapons and the game types and, how that play out really make a difference in this whole ordeal. So we just have to see what happens come November.
I wonder too, Golden Boy, and I don't want to pull it away from what you're talking about, but I think we can all agree that one of the lessons we learned from watching StarCraft is that at the end of the day, it's going to be about stream numbers. And if we decide that the goal has to be entertaining, right? We all agree it has to be entertaining. Look, some ball players don't like to play in certain arenas, but they don't get the luxury of saying, I don't want to play in Detroit. I don't want to play in Wrigley Field. You got to play wherever the league takes you. And I feel kind of that way with the rule set. I feel that we need to put out there what the audience wants. And maybe it's something that we ask everybody. Maybe we shouldn't ask pro players. We should ask the greater Call of Duty community. What would it take to have you watch an MLG event? And maybe that's the question that should be asked. And when I do think about that question, I think one of the things that you can't ignore is the quality of the casting. I know Major League Gaming has shifted bodies again, but there were things that, I thought could have been done better. And I want to get your opinion as a member of the community, because I know you're friends with a lot of people. But be honest, what do you think? Was the casting good for a long-time Call of Duty community member?
Well, the one thing that did bother me, I'm just going to go into one thing and hop into it, which will lead into another, was that when we were at the venue, we actually did not get a chance to hear the casting, and that leads to an even bigger problem overall. In my personal opinion, we couldn't hear any commentating at all once the game went on. And when Search and Destroy came on, we couldn't even hear the game nor the casting. So that was just like even worse. But I think that as far as the casting is concerned on the stream, and speaking from Dallas and, my personal interactions with Doc, Sean, and Corey, I think they did a better job this time than they did in Dallas. Obviously, in Dallas, everyone was like really nervous and, kind of on edge. Corey had just came back from, a long time of, a long hiatus of not casting. And this is definitely a game that he has to familiarize himself with. Sean Bellafury is a young guy. He really wants to learn. And I mean, I've even had great conversations with him where I have talked with him about even things that I do when I commentate. So, that I think I helped him out a little bit at this event, and you definitely saw a vast improvement over what was Dallas till now. And Holiday Doc was definitely comfortable casting, but what I wanted to see, and this is something that I did when I commentated, was I wanted to hear more how should I say, like predictions as to what the other team would do. Obviously, play-by-play is great, but when I was casting along with Sean, which was an amazing experience, by the way, one of the things that I knew that was going on was that I knew where the players were. As I was commenting, I was like, I guarantee you there's going to be someone down here, bottom red, and then he sees him and boom, 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 and then that was that. People were like, oh, it's so refreshing to hear someone who knows what they're talking about. So I think one thing that we need to do potentially is get a player on there as a full-time caster. I do know that Revan from Icons had commentated as well, and he did an absolutely fantastic job. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I think he did a better job than I did. He was so good. He was just a natural at it. And I definitely liked what he did. And I would like to see more of that. Maybe bring on more guest commentators like myself and Revan at future events. That would be a good idea. And then have, guys like Sean, like, learning from that and gathering that kind of feedback, maybe try a few things different, because it's obvious that Wheat and Artosis and Tasteless and Day 9, they know what the hell they're talking about because they play the game and all that. So we need that same level of commitment to the game from our casters, and it's an important thing moving forward.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on Call of Duty because I want it to be better, and I think from my perspective, there are a lot of very basic casting things that I could tell the casters weren't familiar with. In my personal belief, you want to give both teams playing equal footing. You always want to root for the underdog in a way because you've got to give the fans of the underdog team something to cling on to. If you're always talking about the team that everybody knows to be good, you're not setting up the drama, the stage. You're not creating the story. And that inexperience really shined through at this event where they generally would talk about the team that is expected to do better versus talking about the other teams in a way that would make, even if you knew one team was going to beat the other or everybody felt that way, it's your job as a caster to set the stage, to create the drama, to talk about the ways the team that's not favored could win. See, and that's what make people care about watching, right? If Monday Night Football started and the guys in Monday Night Football say, yeah, tonight we expect a blowout, it's really going to be pretty much one-sided, and I doubt anything interesting is going to happen from this team. Well, then what's the fucking point of watching Monday Night Football?
But I have heard that before, though, Jerry.
Well, but I mean, but they still talk about what other people predict, and then they work through what the team that's the underdog could do to try to win.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell you, don't watch Monday Night Football.
No, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. I mean, one of my biggest gripes, though, and it was an issue that was largely addressed in Columbus as opposed to Dallas, was just the overall, respect that the casters and I would say the organization as a whole has for the different companies and organizations that manage these teams. I'm glad that, they said check 6 resistance. I'm glad they did that, and I'm glad they said VVV Fly Society while casting. But I wanted to see it more, actually, to be completely honest with you, because this is kind of different from the casting aspect of it, but which they did a good job. But in the actual website, when you're getting the news from, MLG COD scores, you'd see Fly Society beats, Resistance at this score or whatever. And you're like, okay, aren't they representing Check 6 and VVV? Like, isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? Or in my personal, issue, and I made sure I called them out on this on a tweet, I think on Friday night was, I'm a part of Fear, and, they keep on spelling Fear wrong. Like, it's with a capital R at the end. Yeah, maybe my guys don't know how to spell, but still, it's like, it's a part of the name, and the entire event we just see Fear, the actual word, just Fear, and I'm like, that's not right. Yet you can get Optic correct every single time, but you can't get Fear correct, or you can't get VVV in front of Fly Society. Like, things like that did bother me a lot. But once they were addressed, you definitely saw an improvement, and they were making improvements as the weekend was going along as well. So I have to give them credit with that. Noxie did an amazing job, and getting the opportunity to personally work with Noxie was a truly enlightening experience, because he's sitting there the entire time telling you everything that you should be doing. And it was certainly one hell of an experience that I can attest to. But, a few minor gripes, but second event for Call of Duty, I have to give it an overall, if I had to rate Dallas, I'd give it a C. If I had to give this event, I'd give it probably a B+, strong B+. It was better, way better.
Yeah, I would have given Dallas a D, and I would give Columbus a solid B. So I'm a little bit harsher on the grading, but those scores aren't too far off. They're definitely, I think, close enough to say that we're seeing improvement. Hopefully the feedback you gave to Noxie, and Noxie I know is someone who I have a lot of respect for. He cares a lot about what he's doing, and hopefully moving from here to Anaheim, we're going to see we're going to see something even better.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping for that. And, I'm glad that teams from the open bracket came out and made some noise. That was something that we needed. I'm so happy for Young Guns and Fly Society. You have no idea. Like, they came out and showed people they belonged right at the top 8. They were better than a lot of these teams that were there. And another team that I was definitely surprised with was Icons, which, to be honest with you, wasn't even predicted to do well at all. And they proved everyone wrong. They 3-0'd Resistance like it was nobody's business. And then they went on to beat Influence pretty handedly. So I'm real happy to see that a lot of the teams that people predicted to do bad came out and really showed everyone wrong. And alternatively, one of the things I did notice was there were a lot more girl teams at this event than there were any other event that I'd ever seen. I think it was like 5 girl teams there. Like, that was a definite improvement as well. Even I still think we should get things more integrated, but hey, that's my own opinion for another discussion. But as far as like the open bracket teams, I'm so happy to see guys like Young Guns climb up to the top and prove everyone wrong. And, Anaheim is going to be one hell of an event, because now the stage has been set. Everyone knows what is expected of them, and it's just a matter of who comes and who plays all 3 days of the event, because that's important.
I can't agree with you more, Golden Boy. Look, I know your time is tight, and I want to thank you so much for coming on the Losers Bracket to talk about Call of Duty. Again, I want to wish you the best of luck, and I'm going to put a bug in your ear. You've got a great voice. Don't forget that. The community needs people like you, and thank you very much for being on the show. If you don't mind, let's take this opportunity to give any shout-outs, anything you want to say before we let you go.
Well, first and foremost, I would love to thank the entire VVV organization. Every single time I went up to you guys at an event, it was like as if I was walking with a family. There were great people there as we were all cheering on Active Rush and Fly Society. And I was definitely happy to have been there and experienced it with all the people in VVV shirts. So it was great. And of course, I would like to thank you, Jerry, and Paradise for constant support and your constant inspiration, because to be honest with you, I wouldn't really, 2 years ago, I wasn't doing any of this. And, then when I hear guys like Jerry and Paradise starting an amazing show, and I'm like, this is so awesome. Like, we need more of this. And you're a definite inspiration to everything that I do. So I really appreciate it. And then, on another end, I would like to thank my team Fear, because we just proved everyone wrong at Columbus, and I couldn't ask to be a part of a better group of guys. I feel like I'm a part of a family there. Moving forward, though, I said in my interview, and I have to say it here as well, we need to rally together. We need to get everyone on the same page. Call of Duty is a game that has an immense amount of potential, and it is a game that I'm truly passionate about and I truly, truly love. And I want to see it at a level such as Halo. Maybe we can't reach StarCraft right now, but hey, if we can beat Halo, that's fine by me. So I want to, and don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying I want to defeat Halo, but I want everything to be in the same breath. I want it to be Halo, Call of Duty, and StarCraft, not just, and I mean, we got Halo and StarCraft, but, Call of Duty's over there. We got to all have it together, support it equally and keep the consistency together. And I just hope that everyone gathers and believes in the message that I've been putting out there this entire weekend, because it's definitely important to our cause. So thank you very much, guys.
And before we let you go, Golden Boy, I want to add one more thing. I also want to wish Team Fear the best. It's my understanding that Moho will not be retiring, and him and I have had negative words, and you tell him, and if he listens to this show, that I apologize for anything negative I've said about him. I know he's committed, and I think with your message of unity, I am perfectly willing to apologize for some of the negative things I've said in the past and reach out to you and the whole Team Fear organization. I know you also have your girl squad, and you're trying to do good things, and I wish you guys all the best of luck, and I'm glad Fear Moho is not leaving the scene.
Yes, definitely happy about that. Thank you very much, and expect the second Fear team to do work in Anaheim. Thanks, guys.
All right, this segment of the show brings us to Halo Reach. And wow, talk about exciting. Jason, where do we even start?
I know exactly where we start. With MLG's predictions last week for pool play, VVV Active Rush was completely overlooked. They were given no chance whatsoever. The predictions went so far as to say that it was a 3-team pool.
Yeah, not to rub this in their face, but by the way, you got that one wrong. You were just a little bit off in your predictions. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Oh, you beat me to the punch, actually. Our very own VVV Active Rush, Icevane, and company did finish in 10th place at the event, including wins like a 3-0 win over Impact. Great stuff. We are incredibly proud of our team, and we cannot wait to see how they perform in Anaheim in just a little over a month and a half. Now, to help us talk about Halo at this event, we would like to bring on another one of our community members that was at the event and actually inspired me quite a bit with the way he was cheering on Active Rush as they were playing their games. He's actually been a VV member for just a little over a week at this point, but he is, in my opinion, one of our number one fans already. Real name is Smith Hammer, but you might know him on the forums as VVV RedVsBlue. Smith, welcome to the Losers Bracket, and how are you doing tonight, sir?
Very good, sir. How are you doing?
A little tired from the traveling, but aside from that, things are great. So, Smith, for those that don't know who you are, give the listeners a little bit of information about yourself, who you are, where you come from, all that good stuff.
Well, as you said, my name is Smith Hamner. I come from Nashville, Tennessee. I started playing Halo competitively in 2004. I competed in a few tournaments. Recently competed in the big Flex 4 at the Pro Circuit. It didn't go the way I wanted, but that's completely okay. My passion is for people. Right before the event, I saw DMAC on from Major League Gaming speaking about Active Rush, and you were speaking earlier about it being a 3-team pool. Well, I was just really disgusted hearing DMAC say those things about Active Rush because VVV is a family. And if I hear someone analyzing one of our teams that's in the pool and saying they were just lucky to be here, that's, to me, as since VVV is a family, that's like somebody saying that your child is ugly. So I was completely fired up after that, and I was already passionate about Active Rush, so I wanted to come into the event and throw my full support after that.
And throw your full support you did, Smith. My God, you were like VV's number one fan. To be honest, I think Jason picked up a few pointers from you. Isn't that right, Jason?
Oh my God. When Fly Society was playing over on the Call of Duty side of things, I was so pumped up from what Smith was doing. I was over there cheering. I was saying things I never even had thought of, just spewing out of my mouth to get them inspired, to keep playing, to give it their all. And you know what? What you were doing works. I mean, I took pointers from you, brought it over to the Call of Duty side. They got inspired. They were laughing. They wanted to keep performing the way that they knew would inspire me to keep cheering them on. It was this great circle of energy. And I tell you what, the other team, it affected them as well. They got a little bit bummed, it seemed, that they didn't have anyone with that kind of passion behind them. And in the end, it actually paid off for Fly Society. They ended up taking that map when I was over there. So very cool. I have to say yet again, thank you for all the support at Columbus. I mean, definitely an inspiration to, I think you could say, all competitive gaming fans. We should all attempt to emulate the same sort of camaraderie that you bring to the table.
Well, thank you very much. And you're talking about creating noise to encourage your team and drive the other team just a little bit crazy. I know during the Active Rush Impact match, I could tell that I was getting inside APG's head just a little bit. So, because he shouted something at me at the end of the match, I don't know what was said, but it made me feel pretty good that it was supporting our team, Active Rush, at the same time.
Yeah, and that was all done at your very first MLG event. I have to ask, what was your experience there with the VVV Gaming family? Of course, cheering on Active Rush, Fly Society. What was your overall experience like at MLG Columbus?
Oh, my goodness. This was an experience beyond measure. I've been to NFL games. I've been to college football games, but this far surpassed any of them, all of them put together.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear. Now, Smith, I know that you are a little bit more of a Halo guy than perhaps either Jerry or myself. Since you are that Halo guy, I'd love to get your feedback on what you thought of the tournament. If you could give us some information on, say, the top 6 placings, any special upsets or teams that might have surprised you at the event.
Instinct was really no surprise whatsoever, and I was just really pleased to see them have some great success, especially Pistola. I actually had the pleasure of speaking with him after the event, and he was just very gracious. It's very nice to see the good guys win.
You know, I've always been a Pistola fan, I'll be honest with you. One of the rising stars, and now a star. And it's really good to hear that he's really gracious. And Instinct... I don't know. They made it look easy. I'm going to be honest with you.
They completely tore straight ripping apart.
From everybody knowing the big news of Instinct, let's go down the ladder a little bit here. What were, to you, the 2 biggest surprises?
Well, one of my biggest surprises was seeing Status Quo get knocked down to loser's bracket. I thought they were going to go through to at least challenge Instinct in the winner's bracket, but obviously that did not come together. Second biggest surprise was Impact getting knocked down so heavily, so fast. I've actually had much higher expectations for them at the event, but that's the way it goes on the pro circuit.
You know, Jason, and this, speaking of teams getting knocked down, you know, Complexity picked up a team, Triggers Down. Fnatic picked up Give Me My Money. I didn't think they did as well as they'd hoped. Would you agree?
I would completely agree, actually. While I am a friend of someone that is a part of the roster for Fnatic Give Me My Money, they did actually fall out of the top 16 at this event. Complexity Triggers Down finished, I believe, in 14th as well. So not exactly the best placings for these teams that did just pick up these sponsorships. However, I will say, in my opinion, these sponsorships still are a great thing, because when anybody is throwing money at competitive gaming, I think that that's absolutely wonderful. So fingers crossed, maybe we can see these teams come back and get a better showing at Anaheim and beyond. But for right now, I'm wondering, you know, were these teams the right picks for these organizations? I'm not sure. We'll see in the future.
Yeah, we'll see what they finally sort of decide to do with those teams, because knowing what I know about Fnatic, you know, I think that is clearly less than what they expect, because they are at that high level internationally. And, you know, I mean, like when you come into any new area, you know, you definitely take some chances and you learn the people and that. So, you know, we'll see what they do after this. I thought Complexity made a more solid team pickup, or what I felt was more solid. But even there, I was, to be honest, both Fnatic and both Complexity, I thought the teams did worse than I had expected. And when we look at the top 6-8 teams, they're not there.
Oh, and since Jason had mentioned the top 6 earlier, let's go ahead and run through the top 6. At 6, we have Soul, 5th, Final Boss, 4th, Capital Punishment, 3, Dynasty, 2, Straight Rippin', and at number 1, Instinct.
In my opinion, a pretty interesting top 6. Thanks for that rundown, Smith. I'm really interested to see Capital Punishment up there at the 4th spot. I think that that's a bit of a surprise to me. Potentially Soul as well in the top 6. Rather interesting. I can't wait to see how this compares to the results in Anaheim next month. Smith, I will say it has been a pleasure to have you on the show this week. And, I got to be honest, your passion, it really shines through. Would you be available to start coming on the show a little bit more often, perhaps week by week? What are your thoughts there? Would you like to do that?
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
Jerry, I think we might have ourselves a new co-host here. What do you think about that?
God, you put me on the spot. Smith, is this something you really want to do?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to be honest, Smith, I think it would be a great idea. I think we need somebody with a deep Halo background to come on and your passion and your voice, and you have a certain southerly gentleman charm at times. I think that would fit great on the show. So welcome to the Losers Bracket.
Thank you, sir. Certainly aim to please, and I'm just very happy to be here.
And I can say we are happy to have you. We look forward to seeing what you can do with us here on the show in the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
It is that time which we talk about StarCraft. StarCraft. And with us, we have one of our StarCraft managers, Michael Mangeli, VVV Noxie. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, Jerry.
No, it is a pleasure to have you. It was great that you came up from North Carolina to Columbus, Ohio to root on the team, to make sure everybody was taken care of, to model Gunner optics. You looked good. You looked good in Gunner optics. I have to say this.
Thanks.
Wow is all I'm going to say. I don't even know where to start. Jason, what do you think? Let's start with the VVV crew, because everybody in the world is going to talk about everything else that happens for weeks and weeks to come. So let's give our players a little bit of limelight. What do you say, Jason?
Yeah, most definitely. It was a pleasure getting to see. We had 6 players from StarCraft competing at MLG Columbus. Just to name them off for you real quick, we had D-Way, Titan, Angry, Murder, Miley Cyrus, and Treva all competing. Absolutely amazing. One of the craziest things that happened is in the losers bracket, we did actually end up having an Angry versus Titan match. That was a little bit disheartening since we knew that one of our own was going to be eliminated. But overall, I do think that we had a great showing from the event. Mr. Mangeli, what are your thoughts?
It was awesome. It was a great event. Everyone came. Everyone improved from last event. It was a lot of people's. It was, I think, both Miley Cyrus's and Angry's first MLG experience ever. He did a great job. He had a great showing, even after, and Angry especially after being knocked down into the losers bracket after the first round.
I do kind of feel bad for our very own D-Way, though. He had a great showing in Dallas, really came out, knocked some socks off in Dallas, and then came back at Columbus, and his very first match in the open pool was against July. That was a little bit of a rough pull. It was really funny, too, especially because he had just had his keyboard signed by July, and then they called out their names as opponents for one another. Kind of tough luck, but at the same time, D-Way really did have a good time, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, he had a great time. There's not too many American players that have said they have sat across from July and, got to play a game with him, so it's an awesome experience for him, and he seemed more than happy to play against July in the first round.
Yeah, more than happy. Got his keyboard signed, was letting him know in game that July was his hero. It was kind of awesome, though. D-Way's personality is phenomenal. And he got interviewed on YouTube. There's a YouTube video of the interview right after his match with July. So I thought, as much as opening that way is classic, like what happens to a VVV player, and also classic just D-Way, his personality, it's kind of the fun thing. He takes that kind of a moment and he makes it fun. And it's just great having him at an event.
In addition to D-Way, we also did have another really awesome community member out there who's, by the way, his name, it just makes me giggle every time I see it. VV Miley Cyrus was at the event. It's already making me laugh just saying it now. And I know that he actually did pretty decent, although he did fall to a pretty respectable player as well. Noxie, can you share the details there?
Sure. Miley Cyrus did awesome. He made it to round 3 in the losers bracket, where he fell to Complexity Fire Zerg, who's a pretty well-known Zerg in the community and the professional scene. We also had RedVsBlue, who was the other community player besides D-Way and Miley, and he lost to Root Destiny also in the losers round 3.
All right, we've talked about Miley Cyrus, D-Way, Treva. Let's get to our top tier. Let's talk about Titan, Murder, Angry. Noxie, what was the best match? What do you think was the one match that you found to be the most exciting, where it was just phenomenal to see, or just really made you happy with the results?
Sure. Definitely, without a doubt, the most exciting match for me to watch was in the losers round of 5, which was Titan versus Whiplash from VT. Titan was working on very specific builds, and he had yet to show them up until this point, and he just totally rolled over this Protoss player. Basically gets to a certain point, loads up a bunch of Banelings and Overlords, makes the Protoss condense all of his units into a ball, and then just Baneling bombs them. It's very specific. It's something he was practicing for a long time. Executed it perfectly and won that round with winning 2-0. So it was extremely good, and I know he was practicing really hard for it. I was glad to see it executed perfectly.
Awesome. What were you most disappointed in? I have mine that I'm most disappointed in, but what were you most disappointed in?
I mean, there was a few things to be disappointed about. I would say the most disappointed would be, I think, Murder losing to Optic Zero. Optic is a very good player. We've played with him tons. He practices with us. He's a member of FX Open, which is going to Korea. I felt like, we usually have his number kind of thing. Murder usually does pretty well against him, but when it came to that matchup, everyone was so drained. He was playing back to back since 11 a.m. and by the time they played each other, he was just he couldn't give him the best game that he could have, and I think he definitely could have ran away with the tournament if he would have got past that kind of roadblock. So I think that was kind of disappointing because I know that he's a better player.
And when you say ran away with the tournament, you mean definitely getting out of the open bracket into the championship bracket, correct?
Yeah, if he were to win that game, he would have gone on to play Richmond or Angry, and I'm pretty sure Murder could have been successful with either of those.
Which brings me to the one that I was most disappointed in, and I mean it's just the way it works, but I was disappointed that Angry and Titan had to go head-to-head when they did. I really wish that in some ways they could have been seeded slightly differently because, as we know in the preview show, Titan made it very clear that Angry was a Zerg killer, and lo and behold, Angry did handle Titan pretty well. And of course, when you practice with one another, it's a little bit more difficult to surprise them. But I thought Titan tried because it was definitely not typical Titan. What did you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, only one of our players could have made it out of the bracket, which was kind of disappointing, seeing that there was potentially like 4 separate brackets that they could have been in to all advance. Angry hitting Titan kind of earlier than we'd hoped for was obviously a pretty big blunder. Titan, he brought a different game than he usually plays versus Angry, which was awesome to watch. Angry kind of stuck to his really aggressive Terran against Titan Zerg. He was able to pretty much secure a good defense versus Titan, and Titan just wasn't able to break him. And eventually got to the point where Titan just had no more minerals. He had a good game. Team kills are a thing that happens with MLG, but I'm pretty sure Titan wasn't too broke up about it and stuff like that.
I want to throw in my own personal spout of disappointment that I saw from this. Well, I cannot say that I was disappointed with much at this event. One thing that did kind of bug me just a little bit was that the 2 players we had just mentioned, Titan and Angry, both ended up falling to the exact same player, Titan in the winners bracket, Angry in the losers, which was Namshir, also known as Richmond. That was a little bit of a bummer, especially when during Angry's match with him, there was a little bit of confusion where he had picked a map with the intention that he thought his opponent would be playing the Terran race, when in actuality he ended up picking Protoss. There was some pretty substantial confusion there, and unfortunately he did go on to lose that entire match 2-1 and become eliminated from the tournament. So a bit disappointed that that happened, but overall, you got to give it to our players. They definitely had a really strong showing at Columbus.
And finally, taking it away from just VV Gaming, oh my God. I know you were there till the end. Jason, let's start with you. Wow, huh?
Oh, I gotta say, and this is crazy, but that was almost an understatement, that wow that you had just said. I had actually just headed back from the venue to my hotel room. I was getting ready to kind of almost start relaxing, to start unwinding from a very long MLG weekend, and I noticed that they, on Twitter, had said, wait a second, we're putting all these up on the screens. All 5 screens are going to be Starcraft, Starcraft, Starcraft. Make sure you stay tuned for the finals. And I said, you know what? I can't miss this. Immediately hopped in a cab and drove right back. Was there within, 3 minutes in the venue. Walked in and I saw the most amazing thing I've ever seen, which was 2,000 seats, filled to the brim, standing room only, for the finals of an American soil StarCraft tournament. And oh my God, it was exciting. It was Losira versus MMA. Every time Losira would make as many banelings as he would, if he was rolling towards MMA's units, you would hear the crowd, oh, and people would they were getting, it was almost like watching sports. That's the only way I can describe it. Everyone was together cheering. People were jumping out of their seats. It was by far the coolest thing I have ever seen in competitive gaming on American soil. And you know what? I can say this because I was actually able to go to Korea last year and see Korean tournaments. This was better. And I'm not the only person to agree with that. Some of the Koreans that played here have even posted on Twitter and on blogs. They think that this was the best StarCraft II tournament experience that has happened to date. I am so proud of what MLG has done with this tournament.
Well, let's face facts. The crowd was hungry. I've never seen a hungrier crowd. They were there for StarCraft. They were there for the whole experience. The question is, could Major League Gaming deliver the experience the crowd wanted? And the answer was yes, 110%. All 3 sections were filled. All screens were being watched. The stream was packed, so packed that they couldn't even accept payments on it. And then finally, you add all of that, the people doing the wave between the 3 sections. You're right, it was like a sporting event. This is what competitive gaming should look like. If you are into competitive gaming, this is what it could be. And I feel that now, North American competitive gaming has been forever changed. For all the hype that has been in the past, even including CGS and other things, I believe nothing is as important as this.
I 100% agree. And you know what? I've heard some rumors, and this is only going to get bigger, Jerry. From what I've heard, there's supposed to be more seats in the coming events, and I've even heard a small little rumor, I say small, that StarCraft might be featured as the middle stage, starting in Anaheim. I heard a rumor about 3 screens for StarCraft, where one screen would be playing one player's actions, another screen playing another, and then the center screen would be the actual spectator mode, so you could see both players. But that way, if that was the case, you'd be able to see both players' APM, see exactly how they're timing things, what they're clicking, when they're clicking. That would be absolutely incredible. I really hope that is true, because if that is the case, as I said before, this is only going to get bigger.
Noxie is somebody who watches a lot of GSL and has seen a lot of things, and also one of those starving StarCraft fans. What was it like for you?
It was an amazing experience. The whole thing. You look around when you're at the event, and the whole StarCraft side, forget about trying to find a place to seat. There was so many people standing up, but everyone just wants to watch those matches. It's by far the biggest thing. When amazing stuff happens, I get chills. The crowd is so loud. And then the finals it just blew my mind how many people were there. It was awesome. Everyone got really far into it. It got to the point where it didn't matter who you were rooting for. Everyone wanted just more games. It was so awesome. I think it was handled tremendously. And the thing is I'm hoping MLG doesn't outgrow the venues that they're getting, because they obviously need space. People want to watch StarCraft, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, Noxie, Sundance actually addressed that. He came out on stage. He said, look, I promise you there will be more chairs at Anaheim. As Jason said earlier, Starcraft is rumored to be center stage. It is to be the main event. And Major League Gaming has had Halo as its main event, and all of us, all gamers now, are seeing what competitive gaming can look like. And I think at the end of the day, this is the best thing to happen to North American gaming, hands down. And I'm just honored and pleased to be a part of it.
The future of competitive gaming is amazing. I can only hope that Halo, Call of Duty, and whatever other games end up on the circuit can grow to this level. I think it's possible. Noxie, I want to thank you again. It was really fun hanging out with you this past weekend in Columbus. Any shout-outs before you head out?
Just, all the players on VVV that came, all the people that came out and supported the event, people that are, Halo or Call of Duty players and that stayed for the finals. I know it was mentioned that some people, were on Call of Duty just watching the finals and they didn't even know anything about StarCraft. I mean, that means the world to everyone in esports, and I think that's great that everyone's getting involved in the other games. So thank you so much, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
Over the weekend at Columbus, we did have someone by the name of Charles Gh0st Draga walk up to us at the event, talk to us. We actually wanted to bring him onto the losers bracket and talk to him because it was his first event, and we wanted to give the competitive gaming community a little bit of insight into what it's like for someone that is going to an event the size of what MLG Columbus was. And as the first event, that's huge. Charles Gh0st, welcome to the show. I really would like you to share your experience, but first, let's hear a little bit about you.
Hi, I am Charles Gh0st Draga. I am from Amherst, Ohio, which is about 2 hours outside of Columbus, which was the last MLG event. I am actually going to be attending Lorain County Community College this fall. I will be studying for business. I am glad to be on the show.
Well, welcome to the show. It's really good to have you. I got to give you credit for being persistent, and I thought everywhere we went, there you were. And if you don't mind sharing, how was it for your first event?
Honestly, my first event was absolutely awesome. First got there, and I actually met up with a player from Active Threat who is Trizzy. We hung out for a while, and then we actually went into the event on Friday when I got there, and then we started scrimming for a little bit.
And tell me a little bit about what you expected and then what you saw. Was it bigger, smaller? What was how did it feel?
Honestly, I've seen some pictures online and stuff. I thought it would be completely different than what it was actually. When I walked in, I really Trizzy led me in the wrong way of the convention center at first, which was quite funny actually, because my hotel was directly across the street from the entrance, and he therefore took us all the way around the back and then all the way downstairs on the opposite side, and then we had to walk all the way back, and he didn't know. So that was a funny opening to the event, and then I got to actually go and get my competitor's wristband for my teammate Fatality, and as soon as I had to walk in, I really seen the world of MLG, of how it was in first person.
And what is typical of your experience, Gh0st, is that you generally learn a lot in preparing and getting the right teammates, and you actually have a very typical story, which is another reason we wanted to bring you on the show, and anybody who's listening, about how difficult it is sometimes to get four people together who are going to be consistent. Tell everybody, not the long story, but kind of quick and dirty, what you learned sort of teaming with someone.
Teammates are a huge key in any team's success, and when choosing teammates, you want to make sure that you can choose the most trustworthy people, and you want to make sure that you can choose people who you mesh with and play with well. Some people, they don't understand what they're doing as much as others, and some are so hard-headed that they won't listen and try to understand from a teammate's perspective of what they want them to do and how they need them to do that in a certain point in the game. Also, another thing that you need to look for in a teammate is making sure they can attend the event, because this last event, honestly, there were a million mix-ups last minute of who was attending with what team and who was not, who was canceling out and who was not. There were a million changes in the bracket, and it was just absolutely haywire for MLG and what they had to go through for the whole bracket system they had to create. And I really would like to actually thank MLG for being able to do as well as they did throughout the whole event and creating that bracket system with the problems they had.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. There were a lot of cancellations, and of course that means where you thought someone was going to be seated may not necessarily going to be where they end up. Did you go with the team that you had practiced with, or did you also experience changes to your team near the last minute?
We actually also experienced changes with our team at the last minute. We were supposed to go with a player that was actually former VVV team member, Gh0st, which he is West Coast California, and then last minute, about a week before the event, he didn't hop on for 2 days, and we had no contact with him at all. So we had to make a roster change, and then we picked up Goldenboy. And with Goldenboy, we started off, we actually scrimmed really well the first night, and then it kind of went downhill from there the next couple days before the event, actually. And we really wanted to make a roster change last minute because we knew with how our other two teammates played with us that it wasn't going to go well. Actually, at the event, me and Goldenboy, we honestly stayed as hyped as we could, hyped each other up, hyped our teammates up in big situations when big plays were made to stay on top. And in an event, it's really important to keep your team amped up and keep them energized because that controls the momentum of games, believe it or not.
You say you had to keep your team hyped. You know, a lot of people come to an event and sometimes they get shy. And to be honest, the way you came up and you talked to us, it seemed like you were there ready to talk to people. And tell me a little bit about, even on your Twitter, I think you like to use the term social networker. How would you like to see yourself in the Call of Duty community?
Well, as a player, you're looking to actually get your name out there. And by doing that, I mean, you have to start off with a team and you have to put yourself out there and you have to go to the event. Going to the event is how you meet, network, and begin to know all of these people. And once you're at that event, your job is not to be shy. You need to actually go up to the people and speak with them, introduce yourself, say, hey, I'm Gh0st, nice to meet you. Talk to them. I mean, that's how you get yourself out there. You have to let people know that you're there and you're going to be there at the events. And that's a big part. You just can't go up to a group and just stand there. You need to go out there and you need to introduce yourself to sponsors. You need to introduce yourself to big people. You need to introduce yourself and you need to become respected.
You talk about being respected, but what I thought you did well is that you also gave a lot of respect when you interacted with people. Who are some of the best people you met? Who are you glad you met? And what difference do you feel it makes meeting some of those people?
I kind of hung out with the last night that I was there. I hung out with some of really the more respected people in the community. I got there with Trizzy, and that's who I introduced myself to, and that's the first person I met. And he had actually gone to Dallas, so he had already knew a lot of the people there. And I hung out with him. I met a lot just awesome people. I mean, if you look in the forums nowadays, a lot of players are driven away from the Black Ops forums on game battles and all of that because people just talk. They talk smack, they talk crap, and it's not necessary. Nothing about people's looks. It's about a person's personality, and what they do is what makes them that person. Gain respect by giving respect.
Do you feel that attending an event has changed a lot for you as a player?
Most definitely. I met a ton of cool people. I think the event really exposed me out there a lot more as a player, and attending events it gets your name out there. That's how you get on teams. Teams aren't just going to pick you up. If you haven't gone to an event, they may think you're not going to go to the next event, so you have much less chance of being picked up by a team. If you go to an event, your name's out there, and they think, okay, well, this player is going to be going to an event for sure. We can run with this player. If he does good, okay, we'll pick him up. That's how you get to scrim with top teams. That's how you get to run with top teams, and that's how you get on teams.
How do you feel that you did personally in Columbus?
In Columbus, I definitely feel that I gave it my best. I definitely feel that myself and Goldenboy carried our team. You know, it's funny. I mean, when teams lose, kids like to go off and start talking about their team. We actually had a player do that. I'm not going to mention which one it was, but he was going around and telling everybody, "Oh, I was dropping plus 20 KD every match," or whatever he was saying, and it was not true at all. I mean, he tried to blame everything on teammates. You don't do that. That's not how you gain respect. You play for yourself. You talk about yourself. You don't go off and talk about others. That's how others separate themselves from you as a group. You want to go and talk about yourself, promote yourself at an event, not others. When I went to the event, I went there and I solely played for the purpose of winning and for myself. I tried to give it my best team effort that I could. One map, I actually went on Capture the Flag Havana. I went 44-9, and I'm more than sure that I got the most kills at the event. I didn't really brag about it or whatnot. I didn't really care. Me and Goldenboy gave our best team effort, and we kept loud, we kept energized as players and as a team, and that's what drove us, and that's what got us to where we went. And we were definitely predicted to do a lot worse than we did at the event because we had major problems going in and we just were not winning. But at the event, as myself, I definitely feel that I gave it my best and I did a great job as a player.
Gh0st, what's next for you? Obviously, you plan on going to Anaheim. Do you have any locals between now and Anaheim?
I actually do. There's a Geekers LAN is what it's called on July 11th. It is about, I believe, 15 minutes or so outside Columbus, Ohio, inside Columbus, Ohio. I'm not exactly sure. Of course, you can Google Map it. They're on Facebook as well. Anyhow, they hold some really good LANs. They're local for people in Ohio. I mean, anybody can go to them, of course. It's a LAN. So I'm definitely going to go down with a local team for Ohio that can make it for sure. I plan on winning it and doing my best. It's definitely great practice for going to actual MLG events. But what separates locals and actual MLG events is the people, because just the MLG community is absolutely great. There's so many people that follow and watch the players and the whole MLG community, whether it's live stream or whether it's even within the community itself being a spectator. There were so many people that came out and supported each game. And really, I feel this, even though I'm a Call of Duty player myself, I feel that Starcraft is definitely going to take over as the biggest game because just the fan base for that game is just absolutely amazing, and it's awesome to see how many people come out and support that.
Well, Charles, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was fantastic to meet you in person in Columbus. I'm hoping that we'll hear and see more of you because I think for coming to your first event, you definitely had a very typical story, and it seems like you're learning from it and you're not afraid to get out there and network and meet people. And I want to personally wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much, and it was great being on the show. Nice meeting you, Jerry. Also nice meeting you at the event in person, actually, and talking to you. Nice meeting you, Jason and Smith. Also nice talking to you guys on the podcast.
Gh0st, before you do head out here, did you want to give any shout-outs to anybody, anyone in particular you wanted to say hi to? Anything else that you wanted to say before you did leave us?
Well, I'd like to wish my team from Columbus the best of luck on their team search that they will probably be having. Goldenboy, best of luck with the second team fear. And I would like to tell everybody to follow my new Twitter at It's Gh0st with a Z in It's and a 0 in Gh0st, because my old one is now gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Gh0st. And as the Gh0st goes, so shall we. We are going to be wrapping up the losers bracket round 70 this week. But before we do, I do want to go into our feedback of the week. We did mention last week that we would be starting this segment this week. And I did want to start out with quite a few people that personally came up to me in Columbus, we had multiple people that had attended who recognized myself, walked up to me, and said, "Thank you for doing the show," and then gave me feedback in person saying that they enjoyed the show, loved it, and to continue doing it. Guys, this is actually a shout-out to you. Thank you for that feedback. We appreciate that. Also, I do want to give a shout-out to everyone that gave us feedback on the episode last week with Sundance, the interview that we had featured on the show. One of the funniest things I've heard from multiple people. Looks like people caught on to something you had said, Jerry. I don't know. 300-pound elephant? That actually is kind of small, but really funny. Thank you all so much for all the critical feedback that you did give to us. Shout-outs to people such as NBK, Sundown, Fallout, and all of you that gave us the feedback on this interview last week. We really need this critical feedback to continue to improve this show and deliver exactly what you want. We really do appreciate it.
You know, Jason, I want to say that feedback is what drives our performance. If there's something that we can cover and we can do better, please let me know. We are here to serve all of you, and we try to bring you segments that we will find interesting. And since we have such a diverse community and a broad audience, we try our best to do different things, so we love to hear what you think of it all. And please keep giving us that feedback. And, as you learned from our Gh0st interview, don't be afraid to come up and talk to us. You also might find yourself a guest here on the Losers Bracket.
Indeed. Big thanks to VVV sponsors, SteelSeries, GamerGrub, Control Freak, MusicSkins.com, and Custom Ink. Another big shout-out to the band that supplies our theme music. That would be Power Glove. Additionally, shout-out to the entire MLG organization for the incredible event they threw at MLG Columbus, and of course the entire VV gaming community and the competitive gaming community overall. Your feedback and support, it's what carries us. Be sure to stop by our podcast homepage. The website is vvgaming.podbean.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Search for VV Gaming. We'll pop right up. You can get information from both of our shows, Directional Influence, and of course the Losers Bracket. If you have any ideas, suggestions, comments, concerns, email us at thelosersbracket@vvv-gaming.com. You can also follow us over on Twitter. There we are simply known as Losers Bracket. Before we head out, let's do a couple shout-outs. Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, earlier you'd heard me speak about DMAC's commentary on Active Rush during the pool preview. Well, I'm pleased to inform you that I actually contacted DMAC via Twitter after Active Rush placed 10th at the event. DMAC gave credit to Active Rush. I'm pleased to say he said that Active Rush did a great job. Frosty is a veteran and that he would expect nothing less. So great to see that there.
Very cool. And my own personal shout-out for this event goes to all of the staff members at MLG that made this event such a success, including those that were working on the stream. That went off flawlessly. Even when there was a 5-minute outage at the event, it was brought back up without a problem. Thank you to all of you that worked so hard over the weekend to make this event as enjoyable as it was for myself and all of the competitive gaming community. I greatly appreciate it.
Everything Jason just said, I could shout out 50 times. MLG staff, VV Gaming staff, the players, the Starcraft community. I want to give two very special shout outs. One, I want to give a shout out to Rapture, who is currently at E3, who we look forward to having on the show next week to tell us about his experience. Listen for his next Directional Influence, which is out, because he recorded that from E3. It's fantastic to have a VV member there, especially a character and someone as colorful as Rapture. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Gears of War community. I have not forgotten about you. I have a roadmap to maximize success, and I plan to share it with you and hopefully do the best we can to try to find a cornerstone partner for Major League Gaming and get it on the circuit.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in, as always. We appreciate your support. We hope to see you back here next week for the 71st episode of our show. Until then, take care, guys. Have a great week.